Thank you, Senator. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to you all. Judge Wise, I do want to start with you. We've talked some about Girls, Inc. this morning, and I know that you had said in response to Senator Lee that the statement he was referring was sent out or on the website of the national organization and not Alameda County. So I went to Alameda County, and their website says, and I'm quoting, "Girls refers to gender expansive youth. Cis girls, trans girls, non-binary youth, gender non-conforming youth, gender queer youth, and any girl identified youth," end quote. So since you were a member of that group for years and supported them, is it fair to assume that that is also your definition of girl?
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
And I apologize, I certainly didn't mean to misspeak when it came to what Senator Lee had asked. Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with those statements.
But
and
you
I've
are
never
familiar with Alameda County, and that's what I'm asking for your response. Is your definition of girl the same as Alameda County has on their website, their Girls, Inc. website?
I have not thought about a definition of girl in that way before.
So
I don't think those are the words that I would...
definition of girl and woman. What's your definition?
I think certainly as I was raised, and I have believed that generally speaking for nearly all of us, the sex that we are assigned at birth by the doctor is what we are, and it's
Okay.
I think that applies appropriately to the majority.
Let me move on because I want to talk to you about the group's stance on Title IX. And in 2022, the National Girls, Inc. organization sent a letter to Secretary Cardona urging him to issue rules regarding sex equity in athletics, including transgender students' participation in school sports, so that student athletes are protected from discrimination. And I'm quoting that from the letter. So do you agree that the Department of Education should issue a rule on sex equity for student athletes?
I have no opinion about that, Senator Blackburn.
Okay, well...
I will say I don't ascribe to the particular statements that you were saying. I have not read them, I have not seen them, and it's not something that I would advocate. And as a sitting judge who hears, I have more than 15,000 cases on my docket right now. These types of issues potentially could come before me.
Of course they're going to come before you, and it's important to know where you stand, and it's important to know Title IX is under attack. And we have witnessed that, and I represent Tennessee. I hear from women, I hear from female athletes all the time about their concerns on that. So is there ever a situation in which it's appropriate for a biological male to compete in women's sporting events? Because you say you believe our sex is what it is assigned at birth. So should a biological male be allowed to compete against a biological female?
Again, Senator Blackburn, I don't have a personal opinion about that because I think those things are regulated by sporting agencies and organizations. I really don't. I sincerely have no view about that.
Okay, let's talk about your Think Outside the Prison article that you wrote in 2021. It was published in the Daily Journal. You made some interesting contentions in that article, and I want to ask you about those. You said, and I'm quoting, "Over the last decade, judges have had fewer practical or effective options for the placement of individuals who regularly find themselves mired in the criminal justice system." End quote. When you say, and I'm quoting again, find themselves mired in the criminal justice system. That seems to suggest that individuals who have committed criminal acts have simply ended up in the criminal justice system by happenstance rather than as a direct result of their actions. So do you think individuals who have committed violent crime, that they deserve to face consequences for those actions?
Senator Blackburn, I don't think that you were here earlier when I spoke, but even when I gave my opening remarks,
No, I was watching.
I'm actually very glad that you asked me that, because I absolutely believe that people need to take responsibility for their personal actions and that we need to hold people accountable for violating the law. The safety and security of our country, I think, is deeply rooted in that.
What would push you to do an article like Think Outside the Prison?
May I respond?
Of course.
That article specifically was focused on, because there has been bipartisan support, I think, to reduce the number of people who are incarcerated. And judges have a lot of people who come through the system repeatedly who are mentally ill or drug addicted. And it was raising the issue that it was very important that judges either needed to have people who have committed crimes, they need to either be able to go to prison where there's a place to put them, or they have to be able to go to a facility for treatment or mental health. And if none of those are available, we have some serious consequences, I think, for our communities, including homelessness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. That completes the questioning of members, and I thank the panel. I'd like to make a couple observations. First, on the issue of diversity in the judiciary, we have...
In a tense Senate Judiciary Committee exchange, Senator Marsha Blackburn pressed judicial nominee Judge Wise on issues ranging from gender definitions to criminal justice policy. Senator Blackburn began by referencing the organization Girls Incorporated, noting that the Alam County chapter defines girls as including cis girls, trans girls, non-binary youth, gender non-conforming youth, genderqueer youth, and any girl-identified youth. She questioned Judge Wise directly. Senator Blackburn, you were a longtime supporter of this group. Is this also your definition of a girl? Judge Wise responded cautiously. Judge Wise, I haven't thought about defining the term in that way before. As I was raised and have believed, for nearly all of us, the sex assigned at birth by a doctor is what we are. Blackburn then shifted to Title IX, pointing out that the National Girls Incorporated organization urged the Department of Education in 2022 to issue rules supporting transgender participation in school athletics. She asked, Senator Blackburn, do you believe the Department of Education should issue a rule on sex equity for student athletes? Judge Wise answered, Judge Wise, I have no opinion on that. Blackburn pressed further, citing concerns from female athletes in Tennessee. Senator Blackburn, is it ever appropriate for a biological male to compete in women's sports? Judge Wise declined to take a position. Judge Wise, I sincerely have no view about that. These matters are regulated by sports organizations. The discussion then turned to a 2021 article authored by Judge Wise titled, Think Outside the Prison. Blackburn challenged language in the article suggesting offenders find themselves mired in the criminal justice system. Senator Blackburn, do you believe violent offenders should face consequences for their actions? Judge Wise firmly responded. Judge Wise, absolutely. People must be held accountable for violating the law. Public safety is essential. Judge Wise clarified that her article focused on the need for practical alternatives for judges such as mental health or addiction treatment facilities when handling repeat offenders who cycle through the justice system. The exchange concluded as the committee thanked the witnesses and prepared to move on to broader discussions about diversity in the judiciary.